Hello and welcome. I am Ron Saka, and thank you for checking out my Securing the FortiGate Firewall 3-part series. This is a 3-part series covering Fortinet's best practices when it comes to hardening and implementation. I've also added a few of my tips and tricks in there as well. To go along with this 3-part series, I will be coming out with another series that covers the actual configuration on the actual firewalls themselves of everything we covered in this series. I'll also make sure to drop a link to the Fortinet hardening guideline in the comments. That being said, let's dive in. So about this training, like I said, there's 3 parts. Part 1 is the critical hardening section. Part 2 will be identity and remote access. And Part 3 will go over operations and resilience. So Part 1. What are we going to cover? Getting management interface off the internet, using a loopback interface for management, one of my little tips, using trusted host configuration, eliminating default user credentials, individual admins accounts for all of your administrators, and 2FA for every admin. This is your critical hardening section. These are non-negotiable. These are things that we have to get right every single time on our FortiGate firewall. Before we do anything else, this configuration must be done. So what is that configuration? No public-facing management. There should be no interfaces on your firewall that have management interfaces exposed. None. Default credentials should not be used. When you set up your FortiGate firewall for the first time, you're going to log in, admin, no password. You'll then change your password. Then the very next thing you should do is go create a brand new admin account with a non-default username and give it a very, very long password. I think 64 characters is the max you could use, so I would give it a 64-character password. And I would delete the out-of-the-box admin account. Everyone knows that FortiGates come with an admin account, and those are heavily targeted, and those should be deleted. Every admin who's managing your FortiGate firewalls should have their own admin account to log into the firewalls, and as well as every admin who's managing your FortiGates should have 2FA. So diving a little bit deeper in keeping management off of the internet, this is one of the biggest things you could possibly do. Fortinet explicitly warns that management on a public interface will be subject to constant attacks. We have to get these off the internet. Obviously, if there's a 0-day vulnerability or just a vulnerability in the management, this is something you do not want on your public internet for anybody to hit. So what do? You could dedicate a separate interface, a separate VLAN exclusively for your management traffic. Disable admin access on all of the interfaces. You want to configure the trusted host configuration so we limit the admins and where they can actually log in from. If remote management is required, which I'm sure it is, access your FortiGates over a VPN first. Never direct internet access. So my recommendation is using a loopback interface for your management. A few good reasons why you would want to do this. One is obviously they're not going to be public facing. But 2 is you can also implement security policy, locking down the traffic to your management in conjunction with your trusted hosts configuration. And then on top of that, because it's passing through your firewall and is running through policy, you could inspect it, you could log it, you control the traffic, you could use IPS, you could use any of the security features that come with that policy. Also, high availability. We're not depending on a physical port, a physical link, a cable. This is basically a virtual interface, and it will never go down. And also, it's just a cleaner architecture. You have one stable management IP, one IP to protect. You can easily see in the firewall rules, everything going to and from the management loopback address, easier for auditing, and also a defense in depth. You'll have your configuration on your trusted host configuration, locking down what admins could actually get to it. But then on top of it, you could also create additional rules on top of that with and through the policy, also leveraging security features such as intrusion prevention or anomaly detection or any one of the other ones Fortinet does supply. To go a little deeper here on trusted hosts, this is a very important configuration. You want to set your trusted hosts for every single administrator individually. You could lock down at a per administrator basis what IPs each administrator could actually log in from. And this is 100% totally independent of your firewall policies. You also never want to use all zeros. You don't want to allow wide open access from your administrator accounts. You want to be very specific. You want to define your management networks, your jump host IP addresses, or the VPN IP addresses that your administrators log in from. And then again, you want to layer this with the firewall policies. So for even stronger control and defense in depth, you want to add on top of your trusted hosts, firewall policies to your management interfaces. This will also help protect you from possible misconfigurations in either your trusted host configuration or possible firewall policies. Another good thing we could do, not mentioned here, but is also pair this with Fortinet single sign-on. So in your policy, if you're using FSSO, you could leverage some security groups from AD into those policies. So on top of defining where it's coming from and going to for your management, you can also say they must be a part of these particular security groups. You're also going to want to build in some resiliency here, just in case you have an issue with 2FA or Fortinet single sign-on. I would write a particular rule that defines traffic from maybe a particular jump box that would bypass that rule with Fortinet single sign-on. So I would say like one particular jump host that you could log into with your generic admin that you created earlier with a 64-character password, that would bypass your Fortinet single sign-on rule, as well as you don't want to be locked out. So if Fortinet single sign-on ever goes down, or you have a problem with it, or AD is unreachable, or your FortiAuthenticator or your MFA fails, you still always want a way in. So accountability here. So one person, one account, full accountability. You have to know who made a change, when, and why. This is a best practice. You want to audit all your administrator accounts at least every quarter. And please always use least privilege. If you have administrators doing separate functions, create role-based groups for them and add them to those groups. Again, we always want to use least privilege. So 2FA, we want to make credentials basically worthless if they're stolen. With the FortiGates, you do have a few built-in tokens for your FortiToken Mobile. That's good, but that's not going to scale well. If you have many FortiGate firewalls, you're going to want to use a more scalable solution. So I would recommend using something like a FortiAuthenticator, something that you could create one account, attach it to all your firewalls, and log in with that one token. If you have 50 firewalls, you don't want 50 tokens. You want one token, one account that you can log in across all of your firewalls. Also, something to note, you want to set the admin idle timeout to under 10 minutes. You don't want to leave authenticated sessions open forever. So key takeaways from part 1. We do not want your management interface on the public internet. Audit your interfaces now. Make sure you have no public management access, no HTTPS, no SSH, no any one of those little checkboxes on or enabled on your interfaces. I would recommend using a loopback interface for your management. And if you need to manage your FortiGate firewalls, do it over a VPN. Make sure you have your trusted host configuration very specific for each individual administrator. Again, no default user accounts. Get rid of that admin that comes with the FortiGate. Delete it, create your own, and use that long 64-character password. Individual accounts for all your administrators, and use 2FA everywhere, with the exception of that break glass account. So part 2. Part 1, obviously, we covered the foundations, the critical hardening steps. In part 2, we'll go a little bit deeper into authentication, encryption, and secure remote access, including why SSL VPN needs to go. So don't skip it. Thank you again for viewing this video, and hope to see you in part 2.